Howdy, everybody. It's time for another episode of Thinking Beyond, conversations with strategic thinkers. And I'm David Flint, and across the table from me is my co-host, Joan Quintana. Howdy, Joan.
Howdy, David. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done podcasts, so this is feeling new all over again.
It's good to remember. It's good to be back for a second season.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are we doing today?
So today we get to hear from an amazing young couple from Guatemala. They are the founders of an eco theme park.
An eco theme park. That's not something you hear every day.
That's right. And so it's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like they're creating a lot of value. And it's a pretty cool story.
Okay. And you have visited the eco theme park, right?
I have. It's called Hobbitenango.
Yeah, I can't say it either.
Yeah, it's a fantasy themed park on the side of a mountaintop overlooking a valley with across the way you can see 2 volcanoes. It's just ridiculously beautiful.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a good conversation, and I have not met them before, so this will be interesting.
Yes, it will. Let's get started.
Okay. Howdy, Beto and Hanna. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we've started recording here, we've been sitting here talking because this is the first time I've been able to meet you. And I am really fascinated by your story. I mean, we're here today to talk about what you're doing at Hobbitenango, which I'm so worried I'm going to mispronounce at some point. But
you're doing great.
But you two have really interesting stories about how you met, what you were doing before, why you were in Guatemala and everything. So I would like you to just give a brief little history of your backgrounds and how you got together down there in Guatemala to do Hobbitenango.
All right. Well, I'm Hanna. I moved down to Guatemala in 2013 to work for a shoe company, an artisan handmade shoe company. And I continue to do that to this day while also running the hotel at Hobbitenango. And Beto and I met about a year after I moved down to Guatemala, and we fell in love and started a family and have been running this business together ever since.
Okay.
7 years now.
7 years.
Yeah.
But Beto, you were all over the world before this.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I'm from Guatemala, but while Hanna was moving in to work on shoes, I was out. I was actually living out. I was in the Mediterranean working as a sailor and just coming home every now and then for vacations, and then I decided to come back for good and to help, family business and the whole thing. And while doing that, I met Hanna, and that's where I knew that my decision to come back for good was for good.
Sort of cinched the deal. Huh?
Yes, it kind of sealed the deal. Yes.
Okay, so you two meet and you fall in love and everything. So where did this whole concept for the business of Hobbitenango come from?
I think it started separately. Really, Hanna had this dream of making an eco village on her own, in her own dreams, and I had that too. Sailing in the Mediterranean, I helped building a few eco villages. I was involved with a few of those developments, and I was learning how to build with sustainable techniques and the whole thing, and I was really attracted to that idea. So in my trips back home, in my vacations, I was able to look for some land, use some saved money to buy this land that my dad showed me. I'm giving you credit, Dad. Listen to that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and he showed me this amazing plot of land where Hobbitenango is nowadays. That is a very unique piece of land located 2,500 meters, about 10,000 feet over the sea level, with these insane views, and it's in a old forest area, jungle-ish forest. So it was really perfect for the idea of making an eco-village that is close to civilization, close to Antigua, which is one of the most important cities of Guatemala, and a touristic attraction, touristic center. So it's close to Antigua, but yet far enough that it's in deep nature for you to feel away and embraced by nature. So that was a perfect place to do an eco-village, as I had dreamed. And when I met Hanna and I told her the idea, and her eyes popped open and said,
in a good way, I guess.
Yeah, the whole thing just fell right into place. Exactly.
Well, I haven't been there yet, but I hope to get there at some point. But the pictures that you post on Instagram that you've been showing me, really beautiful. Volcanoes, clouds below you, that foresty jungle sort of look, just amazing. I can't quite imagine it without being there, I don't think. So you say you're close to Antigua. How far away from Antigua?
Nowadays, you can drive there. It's about 25 minutes.
Oh, okay. So that's an easy reach then.
It's an easy reach.
Yeah. So there, you call it an eco-village. What aspects of it are you emphasizing to the people who visit?
As an eco-village?
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing has been built with sustainable construction techniques, such as we build our walls with earth bags, or using empty plastic bottles, recycling plastic bottles, and we did use tires too, and we used green roofs. For 3 years we were completely off the grid, which was which was a plan from the beginning to stay completely off the grid, using solar and wind power, a bank of batteries, inverters, and the whole thing. So that's the eco-village part of it. The thing is that Hobbitenango evolved on its own, and it became what it is today, which is an eco park that has a series of restaurants inside and a hotel. It's not an eco village where people live, which was the original plan, but it evolved into what it is today because of the demand of the public. A lot of people started to get very interested very fast as soon as we started posting those pictures that you mentioned, with all the fantasy themed places, the houses, and it went viral very quickly down in Guatemala. So a river of people was coming up and interested in being there and having a picnic or eating something. So we started reacting to that. Let's put a grill. let's sell hamburgers and so on. So it deviated from the eco village that it was going to be to eco park with that one restaurant, and now with a series of restaurants inside of the property and a hotel.
How large is the hotel?
Very small. We have 2 suites at the moment, which was another thing it did on its own, because after being supposed to be we wanted it to be an eco village, then people started getting interested in it. So we said, okay, we'll give an area for people to eat, but of course to sleep. So we started the hotel. We started to build our fantasy themed houses, and people started to love it. And we were at the second suite, the second house for you to sleep in, when a lot more people started to come. But it was just more and more people, and obviously most of the people could just come to spend the day. So they would come to have breakfast, to have lunch, to see the views, to see the sunset, and then go. So now we had to react to that and say, okay, well, what we need is a lot more space for everybody to spend the day comfortably. So we started building entertainment things and like the swing that you saw, El Grito, and areas with shade for you to spend the day, and then we needed not only one restaurant but more, because this one was getting clogged. So in order for you to get your food fast and not making long lines, so we decided to spread it out in the whole property, doing different kind of little restaurants, and we've been just in a reactionary mode for many years. And what we have today is the result of that, of us trying to catch up with the demand.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like a very common entrepreneurial story.
I bet. I bet it is.
People say, oh, I would like this. And you okay, well, I can do that.
I can do that, exactly, yeah.
So, okay, the two of you run this together. So who does what?
So for many years, I've been in charge of the hotel. So I speak to customers, take reservations, arrange whatever special event that they'd like to have while they're staying. And then I have also been in charge of the social media for years. So responding to customers and posting photos and sharing them, and getting in touch with different magazines or host websites around the world to share the information about Hobbitenango.
And you told me you have how many followers on Instagram?
So I think on Instagram it's 79.9 thousand, so almost at 80. And then I think on Facebook it's about 180,000.
Wow.
So it's grown very large on both platforms, and we use them both. And Facebook is more kind of storytelling, and Instagram is just the wow factor photos that people just love sharing and showing to their friends. And almost every post has all these comments that say, oh, take me here, baby. Everybody's just trying to get groups together to come, and it's very exciting. We get some great feedback.
So do you get a lot of people showing up and saying something like, well, I'm here because of Instagram or Facebook?
Oh yes, yeah. A ton of people say that.
Most of the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody either told them they had to visit, or they saw the pictures and they knew they had to visit themselves.
Mm-hmm. And are most of the visitors from the U.S. or where I would
say
assume Guatemala, because you're in Guatemala, but
most are Guatemala, about 80%,
mm-hmm.
and 20 is from around the world, and from that 20%, maybe about 80 is United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we get a ton of visitors that are Guatemalan Americans that are living in the U.S. and they've heard about the place, and they come to visit and are so excited that there's a beautiful Guatemalan destination that's getting worldwide attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's become, I think, like a place of pride for Guatemalan Americans, and it's been very exciting to receive those people and be able to show that Guatemala is becoming a tourist destination, but also a beautiful and safe and interesting place to visit.
And so Beto, she's taking care of getting people there. You're taking care of making sure everything's in tip-top shape.
Yeah, well, we have another business partner, Dan, and her wife, and this is the way we have distributed all the jobs. Is from the beginning I've been in charge of designing and building the structures and kind of figuring out where goes what. It's a place that is it doesn't have any water service or electricity service, or it didn't have a road to get there.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that is a huge logistics thing, and it has taken a lot of time to develop. I've been doing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then our business partner Dan takes care of seeing the park, what how can we entertain you?
Uh-huh.
You know, how can you have a good time and for everything to be looking nice and entertaining. So yeah, we try to divide the work like that.
And so, what's the future? What are you thinking about for Hobbitenango as the years quickly fly by?
Well, you know, I think where we are today is the future of Hobbitenango, the park that it has become, the place to. But now we would like to start growing as the hotel side, the village side, go back to that. So I think in the next, let's say, 5 years, we would like for Hobbitenango to be a full immersive fantasy themed eco village, like it was, you know, supposed to be in the beginning. But now with all these entertaining infrastructure that we have developed in the last few years, so it's a place where you can go and stay and have an immersive experience in the mountain with all the comforts, but being able to host a lot of people, maybe have, I don't know, 10, 15 suites, fantasy themed houses.
Well, I'm sitting here, and of course, I'm always reeling things in my head. That's just the way that I live, apparently. It sounds to me like you really came up with a very interesting value proposition. That, you know, you're creating a type of value that is unique in Guatemala, but it's also unique in light of the rest of the world. I mean, this is a very unique place.
Sí.
And the ability for people to come there to see that setting with that kind of combination of the elevation, the forest, the volcanoes, that cloud sea below you and everything. But then the idea that you have pivoted, you have moved into things, you know, where you've seen people saying, well, we want this, you know, we would value this. So you've moved in that direction. I think, you know, having your business partner, great enabling factor, the two of you together kind of have your own distinctive competency between the two of you, having that shared vision, being skilled in social media, being skilled in engineering, design, all this kind of stuff. It's an interesting combination of things that you brought together there. What would you see as being the biggest potential eroding factor for you going forward? Is there a limit to what you can do there? Will its own success kind of kill it if it gets too many people, if it gets too crowded,
Definitely, all of it. So, for example, what you just mentioned, right? Because of the big success that the place has had, now this hilltop that once it was a secret, forgotten hilltop in the side of Antigua that nobody knew about. Now it's boosting more than a dozen new businesses. Some of them very well done, and a lot of people. This mountain has now called attention even from the central government because of the impressive boom that it has had. All of that is good things, but now because there's so many places and so many people coming, so there's now factors that, I don't know, maybe there's too much traffic to come in. Some of the places want to emulate Hobbitenango, so it takes out a little bit away from the uniqueness of it, and we work towards that. We work towards making the problems not be too much problems, like the traffic or being too many people, that it doesn't feel, you know, anymore like a secluded place. And we work towards the innovation and reinventing ourselves in as many ways as we can find, finding our uniqueness and try to enhance it so it can be enhanced by contrast to the other businesses instead of eroded by the similarity that they would try to achieve. So I would say that, and plus the time, that it's been a famous place for some years. So if you're not so successful at reinventing yourself and innovating, you might get boring. So those are the factors that we take care of.
Are you working with the other people in the area? You said there are other businesses coming in. Are you kind of collaborating there to make sure that the area as a whole stays the way that you would like it?
Yes, but the business boom has been faster and stronger than our capability as a collective to collaborate. We are getting there, but I guess it's natural because it was not. There was not a way to foresee it. That who is going to open. There's not a lot of regulations in the area. Nobody has to announce, hey, we're going to plan. But now the boom is happening and it is there, and everybody is willing to collaborate because obviously it's for common good. So we are on it. Yeah.
So if people are wanting to go visit, how do they get a hold of you? What do they do? Do they just fly into Guatemala and say, point me to Hobbitenango?
A lot of people do that.
Yeah, so we have an office in Antigua where we have transport shuttles that leave from there to go up to Hobbitenango all day, every day. You can also just show up there. You don't need a reservation to spend the day with us. If you are trying to spend the night, you usually have to reserve about 2 or 3 months in advance because it fills up pretty quickly. But yeah, you can just come on your own. You can just show up to the airport and say, take me to Hobbitenango, and they'll know exactly where you're going. But otherwise, they can send us messages on Facebook or Instagram or email us and
or call us. Yeah.
So there are lots of ways to get up, and anybody you ask in the whole country will know what you're talking about. So it's easy to find, and we're open every single day of the year.
So what's your Facebook account? How would you spell it for people?
It's Hobbitenango. It's Hobbitenango.
Okay. And then on Instagram?
It's the same.
Okay.
Hobbitenango.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody had that name yet.
It's a unique word.
That.
It doesn't really exist. So
Yeah. And in the long run, do you see yourselves just sort of being there forever, or do you see something else in your future?
As in us as owners for the place?
I mean, you've got 2 little kids, and
I see everything. Yeah, no, so I think you always have to I like to think strategically, like if you were playing chess. There's always more than one move ahead, and each move has multiple possibilities in front. So having Hobbitenango is great. It's a great job, and can last for 5, 10, 20, 50 more years. But as well, we're trying to wrap it up in such a neat way as a company that it could be sold in 5, 10, 20, 50 years. So I would say, it's a yes and no for that question. Yes, in my case, I can see us being with Hobbitenango forever. Or not.
Well, I know that we're planning on doing another podcast later on because you already have started doing some other ventures, right?
yes, and we're very interested in diversification, and we like starting interesting projects.
Yeah, I think Hobbitenango has taught us a lot over the years of how satisfying it can be to create a really valuable, unique company. And so yeah, we just started our own leather workshop that I've been working with leather and shoes for years now, but we just opened our own workshop that's also a tourist experience, so people can come and see the workshop and tour and take classes and learn how to make things themselves, or they can just design something totally unique for themselves, and our artisans will make it. So it's a nice way for us to kind of stretch our creativity, and for me, I love going from that to speaking to customers for the hotel and always having something new on my plate. So I think we would love to just start all kinds of new projects that are constantly challenging us, but also very gratifying to see them come to life. And it's been really fun so far. And Hobbitenango for us and our family is such an important place. Our kids are they're in paradise when they're running up and down the mountain, and so I could see that we could be there, yes, for the rest of our lives, and we can always find something new and exciting to do there as well. So it's a happy place.
Definitely a happy place.
Well, it's interesting to meet people who are sort of value creators at heart. You're just always trying to figure out new ways to bring value into the world, and I applaud you for that. And it's not something everybody can do, at least not in the ways that you're doing it. So I'm really glad that I've got this opportunity to get introduced to the two of you, and I got to get down there at some point to visit.
Yes, please.
Yeah, maybe I can take some students down there at some point.
Do that
I
too.
think it would be good for them.
Yes.
But is there anything that you would like to ask me or talk about that we haven't talked about, or something from my direction that I can share with you?
Oh my God, it's hours. I don't think we have enough time for that. But yeah, we started reading your book a few days ago, trying to get into what you do, and the framework that you developed with Be Real. We find it very interesting because we were doing the exercise of, did we think about this? And we found that we did. We just didn't know the name of what we were doing, in a concise way. So I say it would take hours, because there's in a few minutes we managed to synthesize a lot of the creative process that we did. We managed to do it by trying to understand, by reading your framework, and we found it very useful, because suddenly you have concise words to describe what you're doing, and now you can know a lot of other things that you can do now. Yeah. I'm looking forward to read the whole book and getting into details of how else can our creativity multiply by being concise and not so all over the place.
Yeah, it's amazing how just having some language can really focus your thinking.
Yeah, it feels like with the framework that you're kind of having to address things that maybe you would otherwise try to ignore or gloss over, and it actually feels really good coming from us, because we like to think creatively, and how can we make this more fun and exciting, but you also have to focus on the nitty-gritty and the things that aren't so pleasant to think about, but it feels good to have those things out in the light and not be just trying to hide from them. So I think we can also learn a lot by using this language and confronting a lot of these issues that are difficult to think about, but
you have to think about them.
But you have to think about them. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm glad that it seems to be helping you and helping focus your thinking and all of that. I'd be happy. Obviously, we don't have time on the podcast, but I'd be happy to always chat with you if you want to about such
We
things.
definitely do. Yeah, you know,
Help!
that's the thing. We like this. We obviously we do some things good. Well, you know, our businesses are working, but we're not business people. I didn't go to college to study business, and now that you know, the Hobbitenango has grown, and I have focused on putting together a capable managing team. And by doing that, obviously, you know, you're looking for people that is capable and qualified. And on interacting with my managers, I have come to realize how much more we should learn because of the language they speak and the ideas they have, or the parameters they talk about, and all these things, and it can become challenging even to understand it. And so it will be and this the what I have read about your book, what I like it very much is that it feels accessible.
Yeah. Easy to understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the goal.
Even without having an MBA, yes. Achieved.
Good. Well, I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to cross paths here and grab the time to do a podcast. I know that you're just visiting here in Texas briefly and on your way back down to Guatemala and Hobbitenango, and so maybe we'll cross paths down there. That would be cool.
I think we should and we must.
Okay, I'll work on that.
You will not regret it.
All right. Well, once again, thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the podcast, and maybe I'll be seeing you elsewhere before too many more days go by.
Yes, we hope so. Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was a great conversation.
Yeah, I had fun talking to them. Hanna and Beto are very interesting people. As I mentioned before we started talking to them, I had not met them before. So I was hearing everything for the very first time, just like somebody listening to the podcast. And they were really interesting. I mean, the backgrounds that they have, Beto being a sea person out there on the Mediterranean.
Sailor.
Oh, well, I didn't want to say sailor, but because he was doing more than just sailing, I think. But and then Hanna going down there and then meeting, and yeah, it's just quite interesting.
Yeah, the whole story's great. So Hanna is a Texan.
Yeah.
She moved down to Guatemala originally to help with a shoe manufacturing company, which we're going to hear about a little bit more later in this season. And then Beto, of course, is from Guatemala.
Yeah. But then was in the Mediterranean doing stuff with the sea. So
Yeah, he went out there in the world and learned a lot of great skills and found inspiration for this idea of an eco-village.
yeah. And I was really impressed, and I don't know how much of it came through when we were talking and recording, because then we kept talking after we stopped recording. But I was really impressed with the way that they have really been able to adapt and pivot and learn as they go with everything that they're doing. His original vision of the eco village had to change and had to become this eco theme park, and they didn't realize that people would actually want to eat when they were there. They just had to keep learning and changing and all that, and I applaud them for that. And it sounds like it's a lot of trial and error, of course, but a lot of trial and error with a lot of careful thought underneath that trial and error.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to hear how they had this shared vision, or common vision, I guess, for an eco-village, which, as I understand it, is something along the lines of a off-the-grid place where people who are maybe digital nomads can go and live for a period of time in a beautiful place and be productive and inspired. And so both Hanna and Beto individually had this sort of vision for something like this one day. And then when they met, they discovered this common vision. And so they pursued it. And then the market told them something new.
It showed them that there were other ways to create value for the people there in Guatemala. And something that came up as we were talking after we finished recording that I really wished I had known more about before we started recording was that they have embedded themselves and Hobbitenango in the community. They work very closely with the local villages there. They train people, the people become part of the family, so to speak. And I was really impressed with that. I was impressed with the fact that they care so much about the local people.
You always talk about the value of intangibles, right? Those resources and capabilities that maybe you can't take inventory of, but they're just valuable. And certainly based on what they told us, they've invested quite a bit into the relationships, but in their employees. So they really try to work with those employees to train them up in hospitality, to take them to a new level so that they're no longer working at minimum wage, but they can really go to a new level with their families. And then, like you said, the relationship with the community. So for businesses, especially in the hospitality area and in Antigua, Guatemala, which is a World Heritage City, great tourism destination, they have really added value for the community, for the nation of Guatemala, really. Because you step off the plane in Guatemala City and you say to a cab driver, I want to go to Hobbitenango, they know what you're talking about. I think Hanna said it is the number 2 tourism destination in the nation. That's pretty impressive. And they've only been at this for 7 years, and they have, 6 acres of land?
That's another thing I couldn't believe when they were talking about everything that is there and how many people were coming to visit, and then it was just a few acres. That simply didn't compute in my head.
So it's really encouraging for an entrepreneur, maybe a landowner, or somebody who just wants to do something in their own community, their home community. That was a big part of Beto's heart, was to do something for his country of Guatemala and be able to, make a life for himself. And I think it's encouraging to think about the fact that if you get creative and you really pursue your passions, and this is really important, listen to the market. They listened to the market. They responded to the market. People were hungry. They made restaurants. They wanted to explore these sort of Hobbit-style houses or structures, and so they made more, right? And they have continued to expand, and they have buffets, and they have this swing that looks terrifying. And of course, they have these incredible vistas. The view is just phenomenal.
And they were talking also about how now local people are beginning to, well, maybe they're not local, but people are beginning to come in and develop in that area now. And they're beginning to cooperate with others to make sure that the area doesn't become overrun, doesn't become too developed. They're working with others jointly to create and keep this unique place unique. And I just think the relationship aspect of what they're doing is so huge.
especially from a longevity perspective, right? So you asked a great question about that, like what's going to happen in 10 years? What's this going to look like? And they're thinking about that, at least in terms of, their personal vision. What do they want to be doing as a couple, as a family, and as business people? But I thought it was really interesting to hear them talk about how V-Reel helped them face some maybe harder questions that they kind of knew were there, but this made them bring them to the forefront.
Yeah. And also I appreciated the fact that Beto was telling us that he now has language that he can use very easily and quickly with the people there to explain to them what needs to be done and why it needs to be done.
Yeah, he talked about how valuable it was for him to just have the word rareness, because he was having trouble expressing that concept to his managers that he's hired. They're competent managers who maybe want to streamline some things, or they come from a different background, and so they're doing things even like a menu in a way that looks really nice and beautiful and appropriate in a metropolitan area. But they're saying, no, we're not that. Yeah. We're an eco park, and we need to represent our heritage and the nature and all of those things. So those details and that rareness is so critical for distinction in the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a really good conversation with them, and I'm looking forward to talking with them again. Yeah, they have more adventures that are brewing, and I'm looking forward to learning more about the story of Hanna and Beto as they go forward.
It's going to be great. Okay, well, thanks to everybody for listening, and welcome back to Thinking Beyond.
Season 2.
Here we go.